To understand my Bonner story, think about meeting someone for the first time. Whenever you meet someone for the first time, they ask you what you do for a living. People ask each other about their occupation in order to find common ground and understand them a little better. But where I grew up, upon meeting, people do not ask you what you do for a living. Instead, people ask you where you are from. In order to know who you are, you must know where you are from. My name is Molly Rogers, and I hail from a small town at the foot of the Appalachian Mountains. My mother is a strong woman, a big personality, and a compassionate and inspirational teacher. My father is the county lawyer and one of the most intelligent, patient, and morally upright men I have ever known. I attended a rural public high school, not unlike Grundy County High School, the site where my Bonner work began. My freshman year at Sewanee, a fellow Bonner and I resurrected the university student involvement in the college counseling program. We worked with GCHS students through every step of the college search and application process, from proofreading college essays to holding mock interviews. Because of my upbringing, I was able to understand where the students at GCHS were coming from. Many of these students would be first-generation college students, torn between their roots and their wings, struggling with the pressure from their friends and families, the limitations of money, and the guilt that comes with that burden, along with the fear of the unknown and the insecurity of one's own ability to succeed in that unknown. I understood because this is where I also began. I grew to value my relationships with the students I was working with. I was preparing these women for college during a vulnerable and stressful time. I saw the difference I was making with these students, and I would go home thinking about them and wake up in the middle of the night with ideas for their college essays. They would be excited to see me each time I came to the guidance office and tell me of any developments in their application. Because of this affirmation, and because my Bonner work hit so close to home, service quickly became my passion and a huge part of who I am. In order to know who you are, you must know where you are from. Meanwhile, I had always considered myself a feminist, but I had never had the opportunity to cultivate my convictions until I attended Sewanee. Through my education, I began to notice things happening around me that made me uncomfortable now that had not before. I was made uncomfortable by gendered comments, self-objectification by the media and male gaze, and the ruthless competition between girls constructed by a patriarchal society. At the same time, I noticed that these young women were absorbed in the backstabbings and betrayals of their friends, and seemed to base their self-worth and body image off of their current boyfriends. This deeply troubled me. I saw that female students would never be able to gain agency over their futures if they could not gain agency over their own bodies or voice. These observations inspired me to start the Women's Empowerment Luncheon, or WELL. WELL is a weekly dialogue with GCHS students discussing challenging issues such as body image, objectification, bullying, healthy relationships, and gender roles in their school and community. Starting a gender empowerment program was complicated for many reasons. It was one thing to see a need and another thing to develop buy-in from the administration and students with a new program that challenged cultural norms. The topics of conversation were unfamiliar, difficult, and uncomfortable. And there were some Tuesdays when I sat alone. I struggled with curriculum planning, maintaining boundaries, transitioning leadership, and healthy communication. Well, my service, the thing I was most passionate about, was no longer filling me up. I felt empty because I felt like no one else found meaning in my work, and therefore it had no meaning. But with time, this began to change. The initial women I worked with brought their friends and inspired a group of younger women to come every week to WELL, one of whom became the first and only girl on the Grundy County High School football team. My final project with WELL was a panel involving 5 senior women who I had worked with from the beginning, stand in front of an all-freshman girl classroom and discuss topics and issues that connected them all together even though they were 4 years apart. As I sat and listened to the initial women share their stories and insights with incoming younger girls, I realized that I was watching the same young women I worked with in college counseling for 3 years find value in their friends instead of fighting with them, and spread positivity throughout the school rather than rumors. I realized that my Bonner service was unfolding like a flower before me. Not only did I empower women, but I empowered women that empowered other women. My Bonner service began at my roots, and upholding those same values evolved as I evolved and became the type of woman I wanted my students to become. I am now the senior intern for the Bonner program, where I have the opportunity to encourage, empower, and develop other Bonners in their own service. In order to know who I am now, you have to understand where I came from.